Hello everyone and welcome to the GamerGuild Podcast.
Who's going to do the jingle, sorry?
Hello everyone and welcome to the GamerGuild Podcast. I'm not cutting that out, Chris. I know you did it to me, I did it to you last week, but staying in the show this week. Your weekly show where we round up all the video game news stories for you on your viewing and listening pleasure right here on youtube.com/GamerGuild TV and up there in the digital clouds on your podcast platform of choice. Joining me this week is the disruptive influence, that is Mr. Chris.
Hey everyone, hope you're all good.
The person I screwed over last week. And Mr. Rob is also here.
Thank you. I'm glad we're making the whole world blind and not just, getting past these vengeance things.
Now, vengeance is a dish best served cold. But we do have a great show lined up for you this week where we talk about the Xbox Developer Direct, Prince of Persia reviews it in, and Indiana Jones and the leaked video game title. All that and much, much more in this week's X-Pass.
Wow.
Let's get into the housekeeping and ignore that.
Just going back 20, 30 weeks or something there.
I'm going to get rid of that. It says in the doc, all that and much, much more. I'm just going to get rid of it because I just went straight into X-Pass. Housekeeping. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel and ring that bell icon so you're kept in the loop of all of our great shows here at GamerGuild TV, such as the GamerGuild Podcast, not X-Pass. X-Pass is a defunct show. And our weekly live streams where this week, Chris, we played a bit of Halo 2. How are you enjoying Halo 2 so far?
Well, unlike last week where you give no context for us playing Halo at all, I'm going to say I'm having a great time, plays really well, enjoying the story, enjoying the play, co-op, very, very fun, and I can't wait to see out the rest of it.
Fantastic. I was having a great bit of fun, and actually, there was an interesting clip where I got kind of caught under a bridge and just launched me into the sky. Go check out our Discord because I posted the clip in there for anyone who is interested. Let's just get straight into what we've been playing. Chris, have you been playing anything interesting other than Halo?
Just Sea of Stars, still going on the mop up on that one, getting that platinum in there, just as you do.
How's it going?
I think we discussed a lot of it off camera. I've sent you several messages probably this week, I think, just to get in the right mind frame of how I tackle a JRPG's platinum trophy, like what to expect and what to look out for. Basically a big bit of cleanup, but I'm enjoying it. I've fought some of the kind of additional bosses, you would say, so far. It's just very meticulous going through it, finding all these shells and chests. So I'm using a guide, but it's one of them things I'm just chipping away on the PlayStation Portal and doing it. Been about half an hour segments, but not thoroughly enjoying it. Again, wonderful game and probably snuck into the Game of the Year conversation, definitely for me.
Already?
You know, it's been and gone. No, like for last year, like if we did it like retrospectively 2 weeks out from Christmas, I think it would definitely be up there with the rest of them we chatted about.
Yeah, I'm glad you're enjoying it so much because it kind of vindicates like how much praise I was giving it last year. We know when you're the only one who's actually played the game, you're like, oh, I'm really praising it. It's like, is this just a very me game or is it actually this good?
I think that was one of the reasons that drew me into it, though, is that when it went free on Game Pass, went free on PlayStation Plus, and then the big story around it was it still sold shed tons, most likely on Nintendo Switch, but it just had its cake. Like the devs had their cake and very much ate every last crumb of it. But yeah, thoroughly enjoying it. If you're interested in any kind of JRPG out there, highly recommend it. Brilliant game.
Indeed. Just so you know, actually, you keep cutting out, but I think it's the internet on my side. I'm going to keep things going and just hope for the best. Rob, anything interesting?
So I have actually had an interesting week in gaming. My girlfriend wanted to play Witcher 3, but in our house that means that I have to play Witcher 3 whilst she watches and makes the story decisions. So start again on a Witcher 3 playthrough, which, despite that game being very old in the context of gaming now, and like it's still an insanely detailed RPG, even by modern standards, and I'm really enjoying it. Not too far into it, but God, what a game.
I was a huge fan of The Witcher 3. I think it kind of raised the bar and what an RPG, like a Western style RPG, should be. What always kind of was great for me is every bit of content in that game felt like it would be something that Geralt would actually be doing. and not just miscellaneous side quests just because you need to fill out the runtime.
Yeah, it's like, Geralt, go collect 200 feathers. Why? Just because. There's not like that nonsense.
So you're telling me when he chases the goat with the bell through the forest, that's something he would do?
No, that's he needs to do that. So the shaman guy helps him.
Oh, I know why, but when you say about the story, I totally get it's praise for the story, but there are also the ridiculous side quests in there as well.
There's like the 4P tales, isn't there, I guess?
Yeah.
But even like things like the monster hunts, which sometimes they just feel like just dumped in, even like Final Fantasy 16, which I'm love to bits. The monster hunts just feel like they're just dumped in there, kind of like there's like mini boss fights that they didn't really have a better way to kind of work in. So it's like, oh, he's a board, just go kill them. That is kind of how it works in The Witcher, kind of. But with Geralt, with The Witcher literally being a monster hunter, it makes sense narratively. That's how he ends a living.
Yeah. It's one of them tropes I think we just accept video games, and it works because it works. It's the same with, like, we give Ubisoft a lot of shit, but there is something to be said in just killing bad guys, collecting things, and just ranking up. Like, that is part of the satisfaction of gamification, right? Is like, you do the thing, you get the ping noise, or you get the flashy coin, or whatever it may be, and you see the numbers go up, and we all chase that number just to be slightly better after the fact.
I'm trying to think what the worst one of those kind of mechanics which has got me in history. I think it's got to be Crackdown. Crackdown with the stupid agility orbs on Xbox 360, where like every kind of orb you got made you jump a tiny bit higher or run a bit faster. So like that sucked me in so deeply. God, how many hours there must have been like wasted on that.
It is just that dopamine, isn't it? It's that hit of like seeing it go ping, and it's like, I did that. That was me.
Yeah.
I'm marginally got 1.1 more strength now and 2.2 agility. So love it.
I agree. Games. I mean, I must admit, even though I do give Ubisoft shit for having sometimes the games just feeling like they've got off the production line, it still does get me a bit when I do sink my teeth into one. As for me, it's just been kind of the mop-up of Final Fantasy, to be honest. Haven't played that much this week, or last week when you're listening to this on Monday, mainly because I've been out running quite a lot recently. I'm trying to get back into that. And after playing a lot over the last weekend, I was like, I need a little bit of a breather before I do that last push to get the platinum.
How about if you need motivation, me and Chris will just drive around the town dropping items. Yeah. And then we'll give you a map of where they all are, and you just have to collect 100 in like the fastest time possible.
I don't think I'm fit enough to do something like that, but that'd be cool.
It would work though.
You get +1 strength and +1 agility for doing that scavenger hunt.
Yeah. How long did it take you to complete your run? 2 weeks.
Yeah, but you don't need to sleep because you're playing by RPG rules. So.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do need to sleep. Right. Anyway, I think enough of that. Would you like to... One of yous, Chris, would you like to introduce us to the
graciously gathered GamerGuild Gazette, a.k.a. the news?
The news. And as always, our news is brought to you by our guild heroes, such as Mark, a.k.a. Husky who joined on this week's live stream when we were playing Halo 2. And a bunch of people, actually, on that same live stream who were kind enough to upgrade their membership from bronze to silver, including Humble Bundle, Lawrence Van der Star, Kumna, and Hungry Moogle. Every bit helps us very much with the channel. All the money we get funnels straight back into the channel, paying for assets, paying for the podcast hosting fees, paying for taxes, unfortunately, is something we have to do. But so we do.
It's nearly the end of January when we're talking about tax.
Yeah,
it's a true reflection. I mean, twofold. One, I don't think he's called Humble Bundle, Richie.
Yeah, just to clarify, we're not being sponsored by Humble Bundle.
That would be
just
cool.
Humble.
Humble. Sorry.
You're like humble.
You're like a grandma when he's like calls you like loads of different names before you actually
gets to your right one. Richard, Rob, Chris, Stephen, Michael. Oh. Got you. And yeah, massive shout out because the silver tier, obviously we've got our tiers set there, and we said on the live stream during Halo when a couple of folks jumped in and upgraded to silver is that we don't gatekeep any of our content behind different tiers. So if you sign up to a GamerGuild Hero tier, is you get all of our content. Every member gets all the content dropped on the same one, regardless of what kind of category rank you're at. Reason being is we don't want to gatekeep it. We don't want to say, well, there's some content for you, but you have to pay an extra £5 to get the extra lot of content, which in a way means that your membership and your patronage to our channel, it's entirely off your own back. So you raising that bar to silver, it just shows that the content that we put out for you is appreciated all the same. So I think it goes both ways. But yeah, all those folks who jumped in and upgraded, I think Humble actually did it a couple of weeks back. Lawrence Kumna and Hungry Moogle did it on this week's live stream. Just kind of start off a chain reaction almost. So if you are out there and watching and are listening along, we massively appreciate it. And like Richie said, every kind of bit of money that goes into the channel, whether it's hosting fees or looking to grow the channel and things going forward, like live streaming to other platforms like Twitch and stuff and YouTube and Facebook and whatnot, it all has like service and hosting fees. So we're doing our best, but yeah, we couldn't do it without you. So thank you all.
Indeed.
Humble Bundle,
yeah. One day maybe. That'd be awesome if we did get sponsored by Humble Bundle.
We could be in a Humble Bundle.
Yeah. The GamerGuild Humble Bundle is just a selection of games that we just picked.
Yeah.
That could be a thing, actually. They could do like creative bundles. Anyway, Xbox Developer Direct, or Developer_Direct if you prefer. We have one confirmed for January the 18th, which I think we will be, which is literally this week.
This Thursday.
Yeah, this Thursday, and we will be live streaming it. Because it starts at 8 p.m. in the UK, or 12 p.m. PT, 3 p.m. ET, depending where in the world you are. And we actually already know quite a bit about what's going to happen. Where would you like to start? Because there's 4 games that we know are going to be there. Are we going to expect any more?
I think we have to, right? Remember, last year Xbox did their first Developer Direct, and that's when they showcased HiFi Rush. And then they went and stealth dropped HiFi Rush, all within the same showcase. So we went from not knowing about this game from Tango Gameworks to getting it straight onto Game Pass day one. Everyone flipping out, everyone loved it in lots of people's Game of the Year conversations. Now, Microsoft, I guess, have a decision to make in their own head office of, do they set the cadence that this is what they do every year? A little indie stealth game gets dropped? Or do they maybe take this year and go, let's not condition our audience to think every January we're going to give them a free game stealth dropped? Because I think it could make, like, you know what I mean? It could set the dominoes up for disappointment if they did it this year and last year. Next year, they're setting themselves up for a fall when they might not have a game ready to go.
I think that's a pragmatic move and just going, we're not going to have a stealth drop. But then going into the next one, you know there's maybe a 50-50 chance of there being.
Yeah.
So that's where you kind of want, because then it means you have more control of the narrative. And we've seen things like State of Plays and stuff get completely overhyped. Nintendo Directs get way overhyped, then massively underdeliver. Mm-hmm. So you kind of want to control the narrative. If it is just the 4 games that I haven't yet listed, I think that still could be very, very solid. Showcase.
I still think they'll show a little more.
Yeah.
Just because you always have to, right? I know it's a Developer_Direct, but it's always nice to give your audience that extra little something to say, like, thanks for coming along. We knew we were going to talk about this, but here is that little extra sweet thing. It doesn't have to be a free game.
I agree. If there is a 5th game that they're going to talk about, one that hasn't been revealed, so we're going to talk about these 4 games in depth and do a reveal of a 5th game, that's great. But if they do go, here's just the 4 game, this is what we said we're going to talk about, and we've delivered, I don't think you can have any complaints about that. As long as Hellblade, which is one of the games named, gets a release date, because that game really needs a release date now.
It does. I'd be very, very shocked if it wasn't here, because it is the kind of dragging the heels. No, the date.
Oh, the date,
here. Yeah. They're dragging the heels a lot with this one. It's due for release this year, and I think they can't show it. I feel like we've seen it like 50 times now. They're just going to show another gorgeous cinematic cutscene, and it'll look great, and it'll sound great. And then if it ends with just 2024 again, it's like, oh, come on.
I think this is the best time, because we've seen quite a bit of the cinematics and the graphics and stuff of Hellblade, and it looks amazing. But we don't know that much really about the game. This is the time. You've got the developers there. Talk about what the game is, what it's going to entail, and when can we expect to play it. This is, I think, the moment to do that. Whilst effectively got the stage almost to itself.
The thing is, when like when you actually read the description of what they're showing for Hellblade, it doesn't fill you with much confidence. I mean, from what I can see, it says, wait a second, yeah, the team will give us some insight onto how they are crafting, like, the game, and speak to the ambition and care involved in creating the journey of survival. That doesn't shout anything detailed to me, unfortunately. That's the sad thing for me.
It's the shortest write-up of the 4 games, and it's arguably the biggest game we know most about. But again, that could just be the tease of, actually, it's like a total flip of the coin, and they talk about it more than anything.
Yeah, I feel they need more than that, though, more than what they've stated there. Otherwise, what's really the point of it being there if you're not going to give us something a bit more concrete?
Well, this is where I think we need to keep it in check, that it is a developer direct. It's designed for the developers of the games to give us a bit of insight into how the games are coming along. It's there to maybe showcase gameplay, talk about their theories, the concept art, that kind of thing.
That's what I want.
The road to launch. So, but then reading the blurbs from the other ones, they seemingly show a lot more. But from a positive standpoint, if we just get an insight into it and then they end it with a date, that's probably all Hellblade 2 needs at this moment, because we've seen a lot of it already. Yeah,
to be fair, insight in how the crafting Hellblade could be a case of, right, here's a video of the gameplay mechanics, now we're going to strip it back to things like the wireframe and show how we've textured things and show how we've balanced combat. So it could be that kind of little nitty gritty, but in a kind of more of a nerdy way. Definitely interesting to see what they show. Avowed, do we need to see much more about Avowed, do you reckon?
I think Avowed, so reading from the blog, they say the team at Obsidian will share a deep dive into the gameplay experience fans can expect in Avowed, their upcoming fantasy RPG. Learn more about how Obsidian's expertise in building worlds with deep themes, dynamic gameplay, and thoughtful reactivity come to life in Avowed, where players have the agency to make choices to shape every step of their adventure. Again, very brief, but I think Avowed needs to show off quite a bit, because I think its initial announcement got loads of hype, and then when they kind of retweaked the art style for, I want to say it was the showcase last summer, everyone was left feeling a little bit disappointed, where it didn't look as good as they maybe once hoped. It looked more colourful and a bit more leaning too much towards like Rage 2 style. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people looked at that. We were hoping this was going to be Obsidian's take on Skyrim. And I think now everyone has like slightly mixed feelings, where is this just going to be yet another RPG under the Microsoft Bethesda banner as such, and it's not going to have its own standout identity. So I think they've got a little bit of a hill to climb, Obsidian, even with their legacy. I still can't shake the thought of Avowed being just, it looks like Skyrim with an overly saturated colour filter over the top. And I think what Skyrim is an amazing game, still plays incredibly today. But if you're still kind of trading on the gameplay that was set up in Skyrim now, you really need to move on. So a deep look into the gameplay could be exactly what Avowed needs to really start capturing people's attention. Because I just think, apart from the vibrancy of it, I find the game incredibly forgettable. Because it does just
look like a really painful thing for me.
Yeah, I want it to be good. Obsidian holds such a special place in my heart. Is they made one of my favorite games of all time, but also does anyone remember Alpha Protocol, their kind of attempt to do an espionage RPG?
Yeah.
I think it was under Sega. That game was the concept of that game, fair enough, maybe not the execution, but the concept of that game was incredible, and I had lots of fun playing it. So the fact that I'm in this situation now where I'm I don't know, maybe I was going to be okay. That shouldn't happen to someone like me for an Obsidian title.
Well, they've had a bit of a runaway success with Grounded, was that little side project, and that's done really well for them and allowed them to kind of flex a little bit more. But I think back to what Richie was saying about it, and from that, again, not in that Bethesda camp, similar to what my expectations were going into Starfield, is I look at it and I look at the engine and the way the art style kind of comes across, and I can't help but feel like there's, as Richie said, other than a colour palette switch, there's no character, because I'm just looking at hands and at the end of a sword in the same generic fantasy characters that I'm hitting in the same environments. I'm it's not doing enough different that makes me not look at it and go, well, would I not be better just going and playing Fallout New Vegas? Like if I want to play a really good Obsidian RPG game.
Yeah.
And then if that's the argument I'm having as someone who's not a Bethesda fan, it needs to win me over at something like this as a showcase. Because I'm going to get it. It's going to be on Game Pass. That's the great thing with all these games is they're going straight into Game Pass. So it's not going to cost me anything to check it out. But can it do enough to get its hooks in me in the first few hours that makes me want to stay around? Or do I just look at Game Pass and go, oh, well, Fallout's in there. I'll just go check out that instead.
Yeah, it's like literally next to it as well.
Game Pass, I think, can be a double-edged sword in some ways. It's great that you have pretty much access to every single Microsoft-owned game. But that also means the games have to do a lot of heavy lifting, because if you try it and go, yeah, it's fine, you just very quickly go, I'll get back to it at some point. I'll go play this instead, which is more than fine. Yeah. I think that can be sometimes the issue. I feel like Avowed's going to be a solid 8 out of 10. Like, really solid 8 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm dining at a table of 9s and 10s over the last year, and still got games I haven't played in that kind of camp. So that's where it's like, when you've got limited time, is it good enough to really draw me in? And that's why I kind of think all kind of ZeniMax games, I always feel like they've got to a point where it just, to me personally, feels like it's just another Bethesda game. Like, it's similar how in a similar camp to how I look at Ubisoft sometimes. It's like, it's just another Ubisoft game. It feels like they need to find a way to elevate beyond Skyrim. It feels like there's still, most of the games they're producing are still kind of in the shadow of Skyrim and how they feel to play.
Well, hopefully a lot of as these teams pivot over to Unreal 5, that should give them that dynamic flex to do things a little bit differently, and visually, especially they're not limited to the assets of what came before. So
it's not necessarily the graphic, it's the design of the game. And I think part of it is you are limiting what you can do with first person. And so how do you make first person interesting time after time after time?
Speaking of first person,
our History Untold is not a first person game. I'm saving the one you're talking about for next, because it's in the next story. Yeah, Rob, you're a big fan of grand strategy games.
Yeah.
Interested in Ara?
Absolutely, I am. I will be a bit harsh and say, like, I'm interested in it from the perspective that I want, like, obviously, like, Civ 6 has been out for a long time now. Like, plus all its expansions, and I've played that game as much as I physically can, really. Like, the hours I have in that game are absurd, to be honest.
You don't dare look.
No, I don't. That's the thing. I just close my eyes and open it on Steam, so I don't see. So, like, I'm really ready for, like, a grand strategy game like this to come along and, you know, give me something fresh. So, I know it's probably not everyone's kind of cup of tea compared to the other games in this list, but it's probably one I'm most looking forward to as like an itch to scratch in that grand strategy area. And obviously I trust the team behind it, given their pedigree, right? So yeah, as a Grand History fan, I'm hoping to drop another, I don't know.
I think this is actually as well the sort of game where developer deep dive can do a lot for it. Because if you're into these sort of games, you want to know you do want to know the nitty gritty of what kind of makes this not just a Civ clone.
Exactly, yeah, 100%. Because a lot of games do fall into that. They could fall into that trap.
Yeah.
What's the one that was that? What's the other Xbox? The other Microsoft title, which kind of what's it called?
I know there was Humankind, but that was Sega, I believe, off the top of my head.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but I think it's on Game Pass.
I enjoyed that actual game, but I had that on Stadia. I think it wasn't a Stadia Pro game or something. Somehow I got on Stadia. Yeah.
But that just made me want to play Civ again, so I played that for about 10 hours and then went back to Civ.
I think I've got Civ 5 as well. It's not even 6 I'm playing. When I jump, because I don't play, I like once a year I'll play one game.
Yeah. Hey, it's on Game Pass now, Richie.
Yeah.
You can.
Well, yeah, that's the same with all of these games in that Civilization-esque series, isn't it? Like, what does it do to stand out that doesn't make you go, I'll just go back to the other one. It's like all the
Me and
different
Gandhi
fast
have
foods.
a score to settle again.
Yeah, you've got to go back and retell history. But it is the second game from this studio, Oxide Games. They put out Ashes of the Singularity back in 2016. So it's kind of I think them taking their nest egg money from the success of that small title, and then putting it in, and obviously Xbox look to bolster out the Game Pass library. And I think in between Age of Empires, not that it's the same, but Age of Empires and then what they've got in the Age of Mythology coming further down the line, I think it's that if it comes out maybe the first third of this year, it could be a nice kind of tide over till then.
This has the potential, actually, I think, to stand alongside Age of Empires as Microsoft's kind of flagship strategy games. Where Age of Empires will cover your real-time stuff, and this is more your turn-based.
Yeah. And Game Pass also has, what's that there? God, I've forgotten the over now. The Crusader Kings.
All right, yeah.
How have I forgotten the name of this game? It's the one where like there's like you're like a feudal lord and you have to. It's like
Mountain
4X.
No,
it has that as well. It's I can't remember what it's called now.
But I mean, as a first party,
I've played lots of it.
Yeah, as a first party, like kind of strategy game, Microsoft. Yeah, you've got Age of Empires. That's very much solid IP there, but they haven't really got the grand strategy one. Ara History Untold could be that. It could be like literally. I think with Microsoft behind it, if this game does well, and it should do well because it's on Game Pass. So as long as the game's good enough, people will play it. It could stand along. We could be looking in a few years' time. And go, this is standing alongside Civ. Why get Civ 7 when you could just play this on Game Pass?
But it feels like a very conscious effort for Xbox, like Microsoft to build out that PC Game Pass product as well.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. Yeah, there's no console version of this yet confirmed, so it's.
Shall we move on to our next story of the week, which is actually kind of linked to this one, because the fourth game from the Direct is Indiana Jones, Chris, and potentially it's called The Great Circle. You're a big Indiana Jones game. You're a big Indiana Jones game. You're a big Indiana Jones fan.
I am. I'm a huge Indiana Jones fan.
I was going to ask you what you thought of the title, but you've already told us.
It's so mundane and just like boring. Like of all the things they could have put Indiana Jones, and it needs something and the circle, the Great Circle, like couldn't make it more mysterious than just being a great circle.
I mean, that title isn't necessarily confirmed, but it looks pretty solid.
Yeah, well, all the Lucasfilm have been going around and copywriting it and the website and Indiana Jones, the game, greatcircle.com. It's very particular copywriting if that's not what it's going to called. But yeah, if you're going to call it the Great Circle, I guess it gives us maybe an insight into what it's about, potentially. If anyone has any theories about circles, think it's Indiana, you think it's crop circles? What do you think it is?
Better not be a circle of aliens with crystal skulls again.
Could be. But even then, the Crystal Skull, much cooler name than the Great Circle.
I can't see it. I haven't watched an Indiana Jones film since I was a kid.
Oh, you're missing out. But to pivot away from the terrible naming convention back to... Because remember, we made fun of Alan Wake, and that ended up being fantastic. So bringing it back around to the actual game, this is the first time we're actually going to see some insight into it. They're promising showcase of 10 minutes of game and developer insights. So that means we actually get to see it in action, hopefully, and a globe-trotting premiere of the first gameplay trailer. So we're going to actually get some juice here. It seems to be the one that they're leading with. It's the front headline game. It's probably the biggest out of the four, I would argue, just because of the IP that's attached to it. Machine Games have been silent for probably 7+ years now. Wolfenstein 2, and then they had that little spin-off one with the two girls, Youngblood, I want to say. That didn't do too well, but they've pretty much been crafting on this since then. Back to what we were saying about the other ones, though, with Avowed, is I think a couple of people in our Discord chat, I know I keep going back to it, but it needs to be third person. I need to see the hat, I need to see the whip, I need to be able to see Indiana doing these traversal things where he's going to inevitably be doing Uncharted, Tomb Raider, climbing over things, traversing cliff faces, and if that's just first person, it's just my face smushed against the texture of mountain, it's lacking in some storytelling elements. And for me, Indiana Jones, the movies, they're usually cinematic, like action adventure movies, so I want to see that action, I want to play that action.
I think it's worth remembering as well, going on to your point, I don't think every game needs... I think Avowed can be third person as long as it does something interesting with first person. I do agree with Indiana Jones needs to be third person with it being an IP game. You want your character to look like Indiana Jones. And let's not forget that Tomb Raider was inspired by the Indiana Jones films, and then Uncharted was inspired by Tomb Raider.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a legacy. While I don't think there's been a solid Indiana Jones game before, there is a legacy in kind of what you're realistically kind of expecting in terms of gameplay. So it kind of almost needs to become this kind of third pillar in that kind of Tomb Raider, Uncharted-esque style of game.
Yeah, I mean, I want to trust them that they're not. I can't believe you actually have.
Are they any good, though?
I haven't played them yet. I bought them a couple when the movie came out in the summer, thinking how it was good. But again, Indiana Jones and the Staff of Kings and Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb.
That's both
good. Better names
the
than
Great Circle.
It's
the circle bit, just... Okay.
But these games are, I think one of them was very almost like I've looked before I bought the games. I did look at some footage of them, and the last Indiana Jones game to come out, it was very much in the vein of Uncharted, what you'd expect. So third person, like hopping over puzzles, like stepping on a stone platform to open a door further down the corridor, like that kind of action adventure. That's what I want. But I think back to what you're saying, Richie, about the IP is everyone knows this character. So putting him behind a faceless first person, I don't think works for the story. I don't think it benefits if we don't get to see his character, whether it's in cutscenes or not. I think it just needs to be third person. But that's just my take. I know lots of people. Machine games have like cut their teeth in first person, and the Wolfenstein games are phenomenal. So I believe in them, and I'll still play it regardless. But I'm very, very keen to see what it looks like. What does he use his whip for? Does he have like a weapon arsenal? Does he have sidekicks? Is Short Round going to rock up? Like, how does it tie in with the like? Is it connected to the wider universe? Does it look like Harrison Ford? Which I'm going to go with no. I think they're going to try and do their own thing.
I think you have to. I think getting Harrison Ford to commit to this franchise in a video game is just going to be basically impossible. And if you can't get Harrison Ford to do it, go hard the other way. Make it as distinct from not
Harrison. Do they own his... who owns his, like...
Yeah, but if you get him...
You've seen the latest movie, you've seen how much the age and stuff in that.
Yeah, but I think sometimes if you're going to make the character look like Harrison Ford too much, but you can't get him behind it for like the voice acting or anything, you're just going to get even more of that uncanny valley. You're better off, I think, steering away from the likeness a bit. Obviously, similar outfits and stuff, but kind of whoever's going to be doing the probably mocap, assuming if it's third person, and whoever's going to be doing the voice acting, maybe model the character off them rather than Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
I think there's a risk, and I think Rob probably feeling the same thing, is unlike other characters, Indiana Jones is Harrison Ford. This isn't Bond where 8 people have played him before already. This isn't a Marvel character where Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland have played it. Like, this is Harrison Ford's like titular character role for that essentially established his career before Han Solo.
But if you want to keep the IP going, though, you have to eventually say goodbye to that.
But unfortunately, he is just generic white guy as well. So like, how can you can't? It's a very fine line, and I guess that's where first person could remedy the whole thing. You don't see his face, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
that's the risk, isn't it? Yeah.
As long as we get to kill Nazis. But this is the one I'm excited for the most, and that's because of the IP.
Whoever is acting as Indiana Jones, it's going to be difficult. I'm assuming it's not Harrison Ford. It's going to be difficult. I feel a bit sorry for him because it's almost like, as you just already been alluding to, this is almost like a no-win situation. It's like, so you have to. Even if he nails it, there's going to be people go, but you're not Harrison Ford.
But then that's where, with it being third person, if they have like, again, in my mind, I just want an Uncharted game with an Indiana Jones skin, essentially. Yeah. If they have the cutscenes to make us fall in love with this version of the character, where we can see him emote, we can see him have those personal moments, see him like care about history and want it in a museum and all that, and being Indiana, that could be the thing that goes, you know what, this is actually better than the last 2 movie versions of Harrison Ford we've seen. So they do also almost have like an opportunity to say like, look, the real life version of him is getting very old. We had the last movie, like this is what it's going to be going forward, because they've already said they're not going to recast him for the movies. So the franchise essentially could just end with the movies now, and it's going to live on in the game. So it could be a good stepping off block, where if we look back in a decade and we've got 3 of these titles, like a trilogy of Indiana Jones games, that are better than the movies in a lot of ways, because I personally hold the Uncharted games up in a higher esteem than a lot of movies because of the cinematics, because of the gameplay, because of the characters. So yeah, the big hopes on this one. So
it is
can't
crazy
wait
to think,
to see more.
Like, you can make a game to a standard which, when you judge a movie by certain like cinematography, emotion, wow factor, like people can now make games that exceed like the markers of a fantastic movie. I think that's just like a testament to how far the industry has come.
But when you think about it, it makes sense that's achievable, because with movies you do have the visual, have the audio, and all that stuff, the acting. In video games, you have all that plus player engagement, and that level of engagement can get you more invested in the characters and the stories and what's going on. And especially in things like a lot of RPGs, where you're putting yourself into the charter a lot. So you do end up with that connection.
This conversation is too sensitive.
And it's completely nothing to do with Indiana Jones either.
It's too sensitive after Arthur Morgan. So it's too soon.
Too soon.
Too soon.
So anything else you want to bring up about Indiana Jones before we start talking about some stuff that Sony might be doing?
I would just like to flag that the Great Circle seems like a joke from Father Ted, which when they get to it is just like a comically normal sized circle for the island of Father Ted. That's the last thing I have for that.
It could be. I've got no thoughts on it. It could be like Stonehenge. That's a circle, right? There's so many things that can link it back to.
It could be a complete utter red herring that they've just put up there because they're expecting leaks. So let's just start buy up a load of websites and stuff called the Great Circle. So everyone's fixated on that while we're protected for the developer direct.
Yeah. It's like someone clicked a dodgy link and now they're scared that they're going to have another equal-sized hack of...
Yeah.
Could be. Just as a point as we wrap up on the developer direct, just like last time, I think they followed it with some Starfield content. This year is being followed up immediately afterward by ZeniMax Online hosting an Elder Scrolls Online 2024 global reveal.
Cool.
So I think that kicks off at 9 o'clock. So the direct essentially is going to last for 1 hour, immediately followed by SO global reveal.
So if we're saying roughly 10 minutes per game, plus maybe, it's 10 minutes of gameplay. For Indiana Jones, it's 10 minutes of game and development insights plus a trailer. Let's say they get 15 minutes per game. That's probably about right, really, for an hour.
That's what I'd expect.
Cadence, yeah.
Should be good. Tune in Thursday, 8 o'clock.
Thursday, 8 p.m. We'll probably go about early, maybe about 10 minutes before something, just to jump on or something. Yeah. The links are all on the YouTube channel. Just head over there and you'll find it. Moving on. I'm going to throw this one to you, Chris. State of play. Is it time?
Is that a question, or do we have some news on it?
Bit of both, actually. Do you think it's time for a state of play?
Yes, we've been talking about it for ages. PlayStation holding all the cards way too close to the chest. They've got a stacked year to start off with Final Fantasy, Helldivers, and Rise of Ronin. But I want to know what I'm buying for the rest of the year, because as it stands, other than Helldivers, which I'm still umming and ahhing if I'm going to buy it or if I'm going to still look at my back catalogue, this year, currently, there is nothing I'm going to buy on PlayStation, which as a consumer, from a business, they should be worried that I'm not looking at excitedly wanting to put down £70 at some point this year as essentially one of their best customers. So yeah, Spider-Man's gone. We've got our God of War Valhalla DLC. Helldivers kind of has me, but
I think Helldivers is not top tier Sony title.
It's not.
It's one of them.
It's not even.
It's one of them. Party. Yeah, it's one of them nice to have in between titles. I know, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth isn't first party, but that is going to be one of their top tier flagships for the year.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
which I have no interest in. So
that and Rise of Ronin. It feels like we need a bit more.
We want to know what the first party are up to.
Yeah.
Where's Ghost of Tsushima 2? What are they up to? Sucker Punch. What are they up? Like, they've been toiling away for a while. And then all of the other studios, I feel like it's getting to that bubbling point where we've seen everything else. Like, what are Naughty Dog working on? What's Blue Point working on? We've not seen anything from them since the PlayStation launch. Yeah. Like, he just teases with something. My
worry is, I think I talked about this last week, is that because Sony have changed directions a few times in the last years in terms of what they want to deliver in terms of content, the impact that might have on their studios if they've all been, we're going, okay, 100%, your priority focus is these like games as a service stuff. That's the focus for PlayStation, plus PlayStation VR, and if both of them had been deprioritized, the single player action adventure stuff that we're all into Sony for might be just that little bit further down the line than we'd hope. So I do think, I've got a sneaking suspicion that this could be a quiet year as the studios are switching back over to what I think they've probably been working on stuff like Ghost of Tsushima 2. But I think that's probably been the second project, where the first project is probably going to be the games as a service version of Ghost of Tsushima, and the priority is probably switched over now. That's my I'd say a concern. We'll still get awesome games eventually, but
yeah, but that comes from Giant Bomb Jeff Grubb, who said he expects it to be coming soon, along with a Nintendo Direct in February. And again, we kind of anticipate this before Christmas with just the timing of all the other releases, and what we know about is now Xbox are going with a developer direct. It seems natural that the other two would follow suit at some point before the end of February, just to be like, right, this is what 2024 looks like, whether it's new hardware in the Switch 2 or it's PlayStation going like, don't worry, we've got you covered. The back end of the year, you will be looking forward to playing at least 2 of our first party games, potentially.
I don't think, if we get a Nintendo Direct, I don't think Switch 2's there. I think this next Nintendo Direct, whenever it comes, assumed February, is going to be the last hurrah. Here are the last titles for the Switch. I think it'll be in the summer that we'll hear about the Switch 2 with a winter launch.
When did the Switch? The original Switch was a March presentation, right? If I remember rightly.
Yeah, but the problem is the Switch still
did it launch in March? Or did it? Was it in January and then it launched in March?
I can't remember.
It was like an odd time of the year because I think everyone was shocked that it wasn't Christmas, which is usually Nintendo's like tradition.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter now. People buy them when they want.
I mean, I think just thinking of like marketing and strategy is like the Switch is still, the Wii U is dead on arrival, so they need to get the Switch in people's hands as soon as they possibly could. The Switch still sells well, so you don't really, although we do want the successor. If you've still got a handful of games, you don't really want to announce the Switch 2 in February, then have pretty much, you'd basically, that's almost like, oh well, right off the air for Nintendo, I'll pay attention to you in the winter. And it does feel like you want to be the shiny new toy on the shelves on the Christmas rush. So I'd maybe look at maybe an October launch. But Rob, any thoughts on that?
I think we just need more games for the back end of the year, don't we? That's like the big thing for me. Like, I just don't feel like there's... I felt like throughout... Maybe it's just because 2023 was so stacked and that, and like there was a barrage of games coming. It just feels like a bit of a foreign concept not to be looking forward to what I'm playing like throughout the summer and going into autumn, I guess. So yeah, just give me more games so I can ignore my back catalogue some more. I think from me.
Well, I'm going to say it now. Yeah. Death Stranding 2 comes out this year.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that being at a state of play actually. That does feel like something that I think that you could see at a state of play. If it's going to be Final Fantasy VII, Rise of Ronin, and a few other small titles, end on Death Stranding.
Mm-hmm.
That's a win, really.
I'd take it.
Yeah, and I just, on the Nintendo side, I'm just not expecting anything big. I think the Direct will just be covering kind of all the games that we know are still to come, because there's still a few, and maybe a few third-party stuff. But I could be completely wrong. I kind of hope I am. It could be great. They could go, right, here's Switch 2, this is what you expect, here's your release date, here's what you expect in the launch window. But I think you save that for the summer.
Would you buy it day one?
Potentially.
What would it need to come packaged in with for you to get a Switch 2 or a Super Switch day one?
I think the first thing I'd need is it to be fully backwards compatible. I don't need Switch games. I don't need the current Switch to be able to play Switch 2 games, but I do want the Switch 2 to play Switch games, including cartridges, not just digital. I ideally would like it to use the same dock, because the dock is effectively a USB-C cable, so why mess with that? Just let me stick the new thing in it. But in terms of IP, it's definitely not going to be Zelda. I think that's pretty much a given. Mario would be a good win, although I'm not a huge Mario gamer. I think that would be definitely for them.
Need some mushrooms then.
Mario Kart 9 could be an awesome way to kickstart your console. And then you get, okay, here's Mario Kart 9. You get now right day one. This game will last the lifetime of this console. And that could be a nice cadence to have. I don't know. I do think Metroid Prime as 4 is. I do think that's probably might be a cross generation thing now. I'd be surprised if it isn't.
I think they'd be confident just launching with a Zelda Tears of the Kingdom Game of the Year edition.
Yeah.
It's just like,
Tears
just play the game, but it runs even better.
Yeah, Tears of the Kingdom Game of the Year edition, a Mario game, whether it's an open world kind of Mario Odyssey 2 kind of style thing, a Metro Prime cross generation thing. I think that's probably good day one. A few different games.
I do think by the end of March though we'll see what they all have in store. At least.
If you remember though, this time last year we had the same thing where everything seemed like what's going on, what we're going to expect, and the first half of last year was really quiet as well. We only really had Hogwarts Legacy to look forward to at this point last year.
Jedi Survivor.
Yeah, but it was a few and far between. You can Final Fantasy VII Rebirth has taken the place of Jedi Survivor this year. So there is a few titles in there, but back in the year we basically didn't know anything. Shall we talk about PlayStation Plus? Because we have our list of mid-month titles, which are, where do I find them? Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, Resident Evil 2, Hard Space Shipbreaker, Lego City Undercover, Just Cause 3, Session Skate Sim, Shadow Tactics Blades of the Shogun, Vampire the Masquerade Swansong, Surviving the Aftermath, and we've got a few classics as well. Oh, Star Wars Episode 1 Phantom Menace. That's one of the classics.
The leak was true.
I remember that game. You just swung the lightsaber around, didn't you? Just to block everything.
Yeah, we covered it a few weeks ago. It was leaked on, I think it was rated on one of the South Korean ratings board things, and I was saying that it's such a classic Star Wars game. And arguably still the most truthful to the movie, I think, in terms of you play through every single chapter, you go to Gungan City and stuff, and as clunky as it probably was, I played the hell out of that game, and I said that it definitely benefited the fact that it played Duel of the Fates ridiculous, every other level had that song just blasted out.
It was the magic era, wasn't it? Do you when games, movie tie-in games, just they followed the story exactly, but then added 80% more content between the scenes on what happened. So I remember Obi-Wan was, you had to you got out the vents, and then there was a whole section where you were just walking through those vents and stuff for ages, wasn't there? And
the vent droids would electrocute you.
Yeah.
And you'd see your ship getting blown up. But I played it. I think the last time. Still got it.
Nice.
As well. And it's probably one of the best classic ones to come to it. So aside from all the monthly ones, the Mana games, I know are highly praised as well, Legend of Mana and Secret of Mana. So
they've been recommended to me. The last one we're getting the Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection. So this is a solid month. This is This is the best month of PlayStation Plus we've had this year.
It is. That is fact.
And I think it's the best one we've had for the last few years, actually. And what's annoying me now is I've just downgraded, so the classics are not getting none of these games I'm getting personally.
Oh, because they're premium, aren't they? They're kept behind premium.
This is premium and extra, and I'm on essential now.
But I guess you're not going to miss them by not having them. I guess it's a nice to have, right? But
yeah. And to be fair, I don't. If I was at the moment of going, I don't know what I want to play. Something like a Resident Evil 2 might go. Maybe I'll give that a go. Or Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. I like a bit of Borderlands, so that could be an interesting one. Yeah, but none of these games I'm clamouring to play.
I think it's on Game Pass as well this month, RE2, right?
Mm-hmm. All right, well, I've got
a call. So yeah, it's there anyway. It's doing the rounds, helping promote. But yeah, Tiny Tina's Wonderland Next Level Edition. Obviously, the big title coming up on probably 2 years old, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, good mix, I think, this month.
Yeah,
Happy with it.
the amount of games I would be interested to play at some point, but because they're older titles, it is very much at some point I'll get to them. When I'm like 87.
I'm keen for the skate simulator as well. Just like the way it's described is including like 90s skate culture aesthetic. That just sells me on the game already. Like that's all I need.
Express yourself freely and master innovative controls in this realistic skating sim. Made by and for skaters, Session Skate Sim is an ultra-realistic skateboard game that combines 90s skate culture aesthetic with modern gameplay. Dual stick controls emulate the feeling of your feet in the skateboard, so on it goes.
Like realistic
PS4
for
and
me
PS5
on skate.
actually.
Yeah, but like realistic for me on a skate sim is just like me struggling to kickflip for like 2 years and then not playing it again. So
yeah.
I just lie down on mine.
I spent 2 years trying to master the kickflip, failed, so now I just listen to skate punk.
Yeah, like, hopefully it's not that realistic to my skating experience. But hey yo,
I think I could have some fun. I want you to stream this actually. I think that'd be an interesting thing to watch.
what, me trying to skateboard or me trying to play this game?
Both.
At the same time.
Okay.
Skate streams.
Anyway, shall we move on, because some Xbox titles might be going multi-platform, including Sea of Thieves and Hi-Fi Rush. Hi-Fi Rush on the Switch, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, it's a very Nintendo-inspired game almost. You could take it for what it's worth. We've had these kind of like swirling rumors for a while coming around, but again, back to Jeff Grubb from the Giant Bomb podcast. He's very connected, is Jeff Grubb. Said he's a quote from his podcast. Sea of Thieves, I'll say I've heard that was one that might be coming to other platforms. When I started hearing these rumours, I was like, it's probably going to be Sea of Thieves, because I heard that could come to Switch and PlayStation. So
It makes sense, actually, if you think about it. Because I don't think Sea of Thieves is now that... It's no longer one of the games that are going to drive someone to an Xbox. It's a few years old now. And if your new player adoption is kind of plateaued... You're not gaining anything by blocking it, keeping it on Xbox. If you let it out on other platforms, you're going to get an influx of players. It could extend the life of the game for quite a while.
Well, this goes back to our like continued discussion with just like Xbox's approach to the marketplace now, and we've seen with Game Pass and their investment in studios like Activision, Blizzard King, that because they are in last place, they're quite happy to play a different game. And I genuinely think the only people who talk about exclusives and these games go multi-platform, it's like bad for Xbox. It's like it's more just the people who are thinking of the console wars. If you look at it as from a purely business perspective, Microsoft have got, like you said, all the can out Sea of Thieves. It's on the platform. It's free on Game Pass. Millions of people have played it, and it's thriving. So what do we do with that title next? How about open it up to millions more people?
Sony have recognised this.
Well, they're doing it with PC, aren't they?
Yeah, that's what I mean. They've recognised it. They've gone, well, what we're going to do is we're going to time gate our content. So to drive people, if you want a day and day, best place to play is going to be in your PS5. A year later, you can play on PC. Why not? We'll take your money.
I mean, if you're Microsoft as well, you have to think they have in their stable now some of the top developing companies, ever basically. Yep. Like maybe there's like a tiny part of their brain which will be thinking, should we just stop trying to mess around with this Xbox malarkey and just double down on games, because that's where the strength lies now, right? It's in the games. It's not necessarily in the hardware they're trying to build. I'm not saying they will do it, but there is like a tiny part of my brain which will be like, is this worth the chew?
Quite sure, I agree. I think the strength of Microsoft at the moment is in the service. Game Pass is by far their biggest strength. I think Sony's first party titles are quite often significantly better than Xbox's in recent years, which is why I think Sony is so far ahead and pretty much won the PS4, Xbox One generation on the strength of the first party titles. Hardware wise, they go head to head, no problems. There's no issue there. But I've always felt Microsoft are kind of, this is where I'm kind of agreeing with you as well. I've always thought they do eventually want to see rid of the Xbox and make gaming just purely as a service. And I think Game Pass, and that's why I think they've been so interested in cloud gaming. Because
it's a pain in the ass,
eventually
like,
the box will be
building lots
gone.
of boxes. Yeah, like manufacturing loads of boxes, getting all materials, then getting told off because you're not using the right type of battery because it's not economically friendly or something. Like, you can see the argument where it's like, I can't be arsed with this nonsense anymore. It's just like, you know, the console war, you can have it. Like, we'll just take the cash.
And it's not like this president doesn't exist, because the way they've naturally like acquired some studios is, we know Minecraft is multi-platform. Their new entries they brought out, like Minecraft Legends, multi-platform, didn't have to be, but it is. They've obviously had second-party studios as well. We saw Cuphead go to Nintendo Switch. We saw Ori and the Will of the Wisps and the Blind Forest. They're both on Switch as well. They're Xbox games. So it's like it's happening already in front of our eyes. So Hi-Fi Rush going on Switch seems like a phenomenal decision. There's 120 million Switches out there in the wild. A lot more than there is Xboxes. So if you've got your money, and again, how much money did Microsoft make from Hi-Fi Rush? It's free on Game Pass. So other than some subscriptions, not that much like cash value. But if you put it on Switch for 25, £30, you could extrapolate a good couple million worth of sales.
That's the thing with how games sell in terms of Game Passes. Something like Hi-Fi Rush adds significant value to Game Pass, which means you're going to get people keep Game Pass. Where if they didn't have a Hi-Fi Rush, so they might not have made money directly from Hi-Fi Rush as much as they could make when it go. They'll make more when it goes to Switch than they did on Xbox. There's no doubt in my mind about that. But it being on Xbox and being Xbox exclusive means that they've kept people in the Game Pass ecosystem.
Yeah, but the thing is now, I don't think anybody's at this point in the game's life. Nobody's going to go, oh, I need to get it. Like, it's past right, and it's interesting how what's his name?
Jeff Grubb.
Yeah, he actually makes a point of like distinguishing in the article by saying like it's thinking what's right for particular games. So with Sea of Thieves, it's probably reached critical mass on Xbox, right? You're not going to get a bigger audience.
Yeah. Anyone who's playing it is probably already playing it. Yeah,
it's right for that game to try and expand the user base now, and it's not going to cost them much. And the same with Hi-Fi Rush. I think it's whatever Xbox needed to get out of it. I think they've got it.
Yeah,
just release it.
As I said earlier, I don't think Sea of Thieves is anymore is one of the list of games that you'd see as a platform seller for Xbox anymore. It's a nice to have. It's a great Game Pass game, a great library game. But how many people are going, I want an Xbox because of Sea of Thieves?
Yeah,
no
at this point in time. Now. So there's no point in holding onto it and not letting other people in.
Yeah. Plus the value of that game is the community, right? The community.
Exactly. Yeah.
You have to imagine it's bleeding a bit because of the age of the game, right? It's just naturally you'd think the community
you could
would like
theoretically double your player base easily by letting them. Let's assume you just double it by letting Switch and PlayStation players in. You might have just extended the lifespan of the game by 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah, and brought in a good couple of $1 million.
As well,
doing it at the same time, and
plus
I guess
all the transactions and everything goes on. I'm not sure if there's microtransactions in it, to be honest. But
there must be at some point. But the biggest thing is like what Rob was alluding to is like it's in a game by game basis, but then the profile of the game. So like Hi-Fi Rush just won a couple of Game of the Year, well, not Game of the Year awards, but awards to round out the year. You've got to imagine there's a sequel in the works. So then putting this on, say, the Switch, for example, sells a couple million copies over there. It raises the profile of that IP to a point where when Hi-Fi Rush 2 comes out, and guess what? It's only on Xbox. That's the type of head turn in marketing you want, where people go, well, I absolutely love the first one. I got it on my Switch about 3-4 years ago. The sequel's coming out. Oh, wait, it's only on Xbox. But I can get it on Game Pass, included for free. Yeah. I'll sign up to Game Pass on whatever medium possible. It might be on Game Pass, might be on Switch by then, Switch 2. Because they're getting Call of Duty as part of the Activision Blizzard deal. So this synergy is only going to get bigger as time goes on. So
if they're going to do a game by game approach, a game by game, I don't think you see Game Pass on Switch.
Because then you kind of buy it for £30, have it for free.
Yeah,
like that's what we've said about Call of Duty for some time. Like, have Call of Duty on PlayStation, but you could just pay for Game Pass and get it for free over here. And that's the interesting dynamic we're going to see play out over the next, I think, decade. As this generation kind of moves on to the next, is how does Game Pass disrupt that? Well, why would I pay £80 for Call of Duty when it's free over here? Interesting.
It's interesting what they could do. Actually, you could do stuff with Play Anywhere. So if you already own the game, and you're on Game Pass, maybe then you can just play your game on the Switch too. Do it that way.
Anything like that. It's
like you can effectively with PC. If you own the game on Xbox, you effectively own the game on PC as well.
Yeah. Game Pass business model, very interesting. Ubisoft should try something similar.
I mean, they do with Ubisoft Plus, and I don't think Ubisoft Plus not being everywhere has anything to do with Ubisoft, to be honest. But
nope, that was more of a transition.
Yeah, I know. To the Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Is it any good? Chris, do you think this game is going to be great?
I mean, do you want me to read from the reviews?
Yeah, you can do.
Do I think I haven't played it? So looking at the reviews from Prince of Persia, it's smashing out of the park. It's what we wanted. It's something fresh, something new. GameSpot gave it a 9 out of 10. Game Informer 9.5 out of 10. Destructoid 8.5 out of 10. VCG 4 out of 5. Games Radar 4 out of 5. So seemingly slightly better than the Ubisoft average, which is like 7 to 8.
And this is currently got a Metascore of 86.
Not bad at all.
From 59 critic reviews, so that's not unsubstantial.
Yeah, Prince of Persia, one of those franchises that I stopped back at Sands of Time on PS2, I want to say. Because I bought the game from Comet, of all places. And I got so far in and I got stuck on one of the time reverse levels, and I took it back and got it refunded because at the time there was no internet for me to just Google and find out what I'm doing wrong. So I tried it, reset it, started the checkpoint again. Couldn't get past this jump section with rewinding time, so just took it back and got my money back.
I think I did something. I got stuck somewhere similar. Yeah.
It was like you had to jump from wall to wall, but you had to use rewind time at the same time, and my stupid child brain just couldn't figure out the puzzle. And then rather think well, I've just paid £40 for this. At that moment in my life, I could have done with the £40 much, much more. So I just went and got a refund, and I've not touched Prince of Persia since. So, but I really enjoyed what I did play. The time mechanics are so cool. So what I'm hearing is this is arguably the best Metroidvania we've got in a long, long time. Art style looks great, graphics look great, exploration's fantastic, and the way it uses the Sands of Time essentially to traverse and everything adds a really good fun dynamic to the combat.
Yeah, I mean, I'm usually very critical of Ubisoft in terms of the games just often feel just off a production line. This feels like we've took an IP, took a style of game and perfectly matched them up. A Metroidvania, Prince of Persia, does sound like, this should really work, and it seems like they've nailed it. And I really, really like seeing developers like Ubisoft, who I'm usually quite critical of, nail it. I like to be wrong when it comes to these companies, because it means that we get better games.
Absolutely. And this is the studio that made Rayman Legends as well, which in its own right is a fantastic game. I do want to point out as well, one of the highlighted features of this one, which I wholly hope that a lot of Metroidvanias adapt, and one of the reasons I get lost in Metroidvanias is because I forget where the hell I am. Especially if you've not played the game for a few days or a week or two, and you come back to it and you're stuck in a dungeon element somewhere. There's no real map or anything to figure out where you are or where you are in the world. In Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown there's a button that essentially screenshots your location. So if you've got a puzzle that you're stuck on and it requires a red key, and you don't get that red key until 4 hours later, you can screenshot that chunk of the map and it saves it in a wider open world map. So you can look back and go, now I've got that red key, where the hell did I need to use it? So you look on your map and it goes, oh, there's a little screenshot of that locked door 4 or 5 hours ago. That's where I need to go back to. And I think that's super cool.
It is a hallmark of Metroidvania games to have these kind of, you will encounter an unpassable thing, and you're meant to just keep that in your memory, remember that thing for later. But if you're playing every night for several hours every night, that's fairly easy to do. But sometimes, I haven't touched Final Fantasy in about 4 days at this point. If I was playing a Metroidvania, that interesting thing that I saw maybe a week ago is gone out my brain.
Yeah.
So
I can't even remember what I had for breakfast, let alone
that seems
what
like
a
really cool mechanic. Oh, this is an interesting thing. I'll put that in my memory bank, but instead of my actual physical brain, I'm going to put it in my map. So there's an interesting thing there. Just remember the interesting thing.
It's great. That's one of the difficulties I've been having with Sea of Stars is the way the world's split, because it's on a 2D plane. You can't really see where you're going to. You just have to wait until the screen scrolls along to that part of the map.
Yeah.
And I've done some of the quizzes at the end where you get the question packs. And it's how much MP does it use to use this attack? And I'm like, 3, 5, 8. I'm like, I have no fucking idea. I've used it a million times, but
my
brain doesn't remember stuff like that.
I used a guide for some of them.
I mean, yeah, I am. I'm not wasting my time getting it wrong.
God.
It's not like asking I mean, this is the sidetrack here, but the question's not necessarily asking you just about the narrative that you've explored. Sometimes it's really deep cuts of the lore, or, yeah, as Chris mentioned, how much MP does this attack use without this relic active and stuff like that? It's like, fuck knows.
Yeah, no. Well,
it says
Google
next to
knows.
the thing.
Google knows.
Yeah, Google knows.
But yeah, happy for Prince of Persia. Happy for Ubisoft. They needed a good win to kickstart the year, and I think between that and whatever's on the horizon, I think they could have a decent year this year, and they need it.
Indeed. Let's talk a bit about VR. The Apple Vision Pro, we're finally getting a release date. It will launch in February. Still $3,500 though.
It's just
alright. You get a polishing cloth with it.
All right, that's worth it then. Rob, I don't think we've talked about this.
The polishing cloth.
No, the VR.
Right. I think we touched on it last week, didn't we? When we were talking something. I can't remember now though.
Like PSVR 2 added like a shit year.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Yeah, we said Apple could revitalise this part of the industry.
I really don't see it for that price.
It's the funniest thing is in the advert they put out for it, because again it's CES this week in the US, where all the big tech companies announce all like the new TVs and quirky things and whatnot, and got a date, quick turnaround time, as Apple tend to do when they do lock these things in. And in the advert they show like two women sat on a couch, and the great thing with this VR is it's got pass through, so you basically press a button and the visor, for lack of a better term, goes semi-transparent, so you can see through it. You don't have to take it off your head. But in the video, there's like a woman talking, and a friend talks to her on the couch, and she turns to her and like does the half visor visionary thing, and it's like no one in their right mind is going to sit on the couch and talk to their friend or the sibling or the parents by going, "Oh, wait there," with this chunky white thing on their head. They're going to turn them and go, "I'm going to have a serious conversation with you right now," while I'm essentially looking like Data from Star Trek.
It feels like the Google Glass.
Yeah,
vision of the world again.
I mean, the price alone, like, we're all out. I would never in a million years contemplate dropping this much money, no matter how good of a piece of tech it is.
This is one sometimes, when you feel like tech companies just exist in a different world. They're just not in touch with like reality. As you said, no one's sitting on the couch using that feature. It feels very, very gimmicky, and how most people are using VR, either playing on their own, or in a social situation where you laugh at the person like who's playing it. That's it. I don't think I've ever seen any YouTube video or anything, or heard anyone with two people being using VR together.
Yeah, it's just a really strange one. I feel
and
like
the price would pretty much prohibit that anyway, because that's a $7,000 outlay to do that.
Yeah. I think Apple are finally maybe stretching themselves a little bit. They would have been maybe smarter investing in cloud gaming or a physical gaming box, but $3,500.
I just don't see
for what they're going to bring to the table. I mean, the phones are already overpriced to begin with, so
it's going to be best in class. But I don't think that's what VR needs. I think VR needs good enough.
Content.
It needs content, and despite what Mark Zuckerberg thinks, people don't want to actually have business meetings in VR. It doesn't improve the service.
I think from Apple's perspective, I think they wanted to make like some augmented reality glasses, and
they got carried away.
No, I think they've realised that's just far too long in the future, and they just want to bring something out which kind of occupies that like VR, AR space, and I think this is it. I don't think it's intended to be a commercial success, to be honest.
No.
It almost has the feel like the research and development department just got like an extra digit added onto their budget by accident, and they're like, oh wow, we actually can spend more money on investing in this stuff.
I think this is a brand statement kind of thing. It's like it's an Apple product. It's going to be the best under the hood. It's going to be the best VR experience you could get today. If you're into Apple products and you've got more money than sense, you can get this one. It's going to be, it will be fantastic. There's no doubt in my mind about the quality of the product. But it's definitely not a mass market thing. If it is, then if Apple are looking at this as mass market, they really need to maybe look at what's going on in the world in terms of finances.
I don't think it's much more on the branding exercise.
Yeah.
Like, Apple can say,
I think they've realised
we're making the most innovative product.
I think they want to get in the VR market or the VR/AR market, but realise it's quite saturated already with like lower to mid-tier stuff, which are already fairly expensive. So if you're going to get in, they're going in at the top. We're going to pitch ourselves at the top, and I potentially could see in a few years' time they're releasing a light version that is a bit more reasonably priced.
Yeah, a bit more Tony Stark glasses as opposed to...
Well, maybe not that. I'm just thinking like a VR headset that isn't $3,000.
VR Mini, something like that. But
Yeah.
I think it's definitely what Rob alluded to. It's more of a statement piece. But then again, Apple have usually been the front runner where it doesn't get mass adoption until Apple do it. And then they got rid of the auxiliary port jack on the phones. Everyone mocked them, even Samsung mocked them, and then now Samsung do it. They led the charge with like Buds earphones instead as well. Well, everyone has a pair of Bud earphones now, and it's all come from them. So we laugh and we mock, but by the time this gets to iteration 2 and 3, it might be mass market. Who knows? They've done it several times before now, so.
Yeah, I have too much of a losing record of like taking the piss out of Apple decisions and having to like eat my words in like 12 months' time. So,
but you said, you know what? It's. I mean, VR2 for PlayStation is too expensive for me at the moment. So unless I want to quadruple that, then pass.
Yeah, you know what? I don't think you'll pass on, Chris. Remedies has just trademarked a new game, FBC Firebreak. You know Control quite well. What does that mean to you?
Well, in the article, it's one of those copyright things that's happened behind the scenes. We know Remedy are working on a cooperative shooter. It's known as Project Condor. It's been in the work for quite some time. That's what this is
rumoured to be. FBC Firebreak is rumoured to be Project Condor.
Yeah, and they worked on, what was the game they did in conjunction with Microsoft? They did was it called Firebreak? Fire Sprite, something. They did a multiplayer game that came out a year or so ago, in cohesion with Xbox, and it failed miserably, and it's been Remedy's only like blip in gaming. But yeah, FBC is the Federal Bureau for Control. So for anyone who's played Alan Wake 2 or 1 or Control, it's basically the FBI version that deals with paranormal activity. So I know in the article it says like, oh, what is it? The name could suggest it's Federal Bureau of Control. It's like, no, it doesn't suggest it is. That's what Remedy's like. You're not going to call the game FBC and not reference what the in-world department is. I don't know what a cooperative shoot would look like in the Control universe. Like, there's things called altered world events. So just something happens, like X-Files style, and then you and your team drop into a location to either capture the asset, if it's like a haunting or it's an alien, or like, again, in Control, it could be anything from like a flying fridge or something or like that. So, yeah, could be fun, could be interesting.
I'm just trying to envision like Control, but 2 players.
I think it could work quite well. Like if you both have like supernatural abilities, or maybe one of the team has supernatural abilities, like the Jesse from Control, and the other 2-3 members of the squad are just like regular grunts, and that power rotates like asymmetrically between the team, like each round. Perhaps.
So you're thinking like an asymmetric kind of multiplayer game. I was thinking like just like a narrative, like something, a narrative like action game where that is a co-op shooter.
It could be. I mean, I would be quite happy with it just being like the Division.
It could be class based, so you get to pick one ability out of selection. Well. Yeah.
They've got a bit to play with.
Yeah, maybe you just do work for the Federal Bureau of Control. You build a character, you select your loadout. That's the kind of where my mind went to, but set in the world of Alan Wake and Control.
Yeah, I think it could work quite well. And again, it's interesting rather that like it gives them the freedom to do different villains every like season. As such, because of the nature of what the FBC does. Firebreak as well, it does have an internal meaning in the world of Control, is where they have these assets, these like crazy things going on. They leave a firebreak, which is essentially a big void of space and a big concrete bunker that separates the thing from the other world. So like a security failsafe. So yeah, if you just go into one of these rooms and have to deal with whatever the asset is, it could be a mixture of like Ghostbusters, Division.
Well,
everything.
Division, that's a good thought, because you know the Division, you tend to have, he's your home base, this is your hub, and then you go out in the world. the Federal Bureau of Control could be your home base, and you go out into the world, then like, you know, in Division when you get into story things, sometimes you go through. I'll sneak through this gate, and now I'm in like a controlled area. There you go, but made by Remedy, set in the world of Control.
Well, that's it. In the FBC's home it's a place called the Oldest House as well, and it's a sentient building that can rebuild its walls and move things around. So if that is your home hub, then there's nothing to say. Like as the game develops and season passes come around, it's not just like an extra. Oh, the building has just created a whole new area for you to go explore, and it fits in with the narrative, so it wouldn't be out of place. So yeah, it could be really exciting. And I think off the back of the success of Alan Wake 2 and how integral the FBC is to that, I think it's another way of expanding their Remedy-verse.
So are we kind of like going, what if Control was the Division?
Pretty much. I'd take it.
That could be awesome, actually. Thoughts, Rob?
I have next to no experience in this franchise, so hence I'm staying quiet. But if you guys are excited about it, I think you'd really enjoy. I'm excited about it.
I think you'd really enjoy Control.
And Alan Wake.
Just need the time, man. Never
you can get Control on everything.
It's this month's Amazon Luna Prime game, actually, Rob.
Ooh.
Again,
a reminder.
I have to remember how to use Prime games.
Yeah, we've got time for a few more stories, but there's quite a lot in the dock. So where do you want to go? Is there any stories you specifically want to jump into?
I think for me, just a side note to the Last of Us Season 2 is officially underway. We've got a couple of cast listings. Obviously, we do the Clicker Cast here on the channel, so if you're interested in The Last of Us, the show, you've maybe not watched it, you just watch it scoop loads of awards. Not Golden Globes. Got a bit shafted at the Golden Globes. Succession seemed to have won everything.
Succession only won everything because it was finishing.
Yes, potentially, but unfortunately it missed out on a lot of things. I think the only winner was actually Nick Offerman. I mean, rightly so.
Yeah.
They did get loads of awards. What's the other one that runs in conjunction with the Golden Globes? Is it Emmys?
I think so.
Like the same weekend, essentially. It did win like tons of stuff there for art direction. It won the opening title sequence for the fungus growing everywhere. But in terms of the Golden Globes, got absolutely shafted. But then off the back of this, we've got a lot of casting news of people being brought in. So we have our Abby, we have our Dina, and we have our Jessie. Fairly unknown actors and actresses. All things said, and nothing. Abby's character is the biggest one. Caitlin Dever. She's probably best known for playing the daughter, I think, of Tim Allen in Last Man Standing, which is like it's basically Home Improvement, but when he's older and he has a new family somehow. It's the same. It's the same show in all intents and purposes. But I think gamers will probably know her most likely. She plays, I guess, spoilers for Uncharted 4. She plays Cassie Drake at the end of that one, but as a mocap. So it's interesting because she's from the video game world before the acting one, and then Neil Druckmann obviously knows her through the video game, and then it's interesting. Getting a lot of shit online already because
I hope she's ready for the abuse because.
Yeah, but so like,
cool,
interesting enough, she's probably going to get loads of shit because she's like quite a small girl as opposed to Abby, who's quite a jacked, beefed up, gonna rip your head off kind of girl, albeit animated. And there's already immediately people saying like, oh, it doesn't look like her. It's why the cast. She's really gonna have to get jacked for this role. It's like all the TV show could go in a different direction. Where she doesn't, you don't have to be big and jacked to kill Ellie. Bella Ramsey is also quite a small girl. Right? So guess what? Like, and again, the dynamic for the TV show could be completely different. That's the great thing with what the team have done with season 1 is it was the same but slightly different.
And you don't know where in Abby's story she's going to be. She could be doing a lot of the flashbacky stuff. Abby may not meet Ellie till the end of the season, even in the season.
And also, like, lighting is a thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can make people look a hell of a lot bigger than they are with camera and lighting work, right? Like
also steroids and gym work.
I don't think that's what they've cast. I generally just think they've cast her because she's obviously nailed the role, and I don't think they're going to go down. I think this is season 2. They're going to start to deviate a lot more from the games, and I don't think Abby's going to be as similar as what people are maybe expecting.
I think you have to remember as well, Abby got a lot of shit in the games for being jacked.
She did.
So you can't
win. It's like feral gamers. You can't win with them, right? Like whatever you do.
based on the season one of The Last of Us and the casting there, they nailed it. I don't think there was a bad casting choice at all in that. So I fully trust them to do the same again going into season 2, because there's no reason to not trust them. Yeah, so if they've auditioned people and thought she's the best role, just wait to see her performance. And then if you think her performance is terrible, that's commenting on her performance.
Look at that. When they cast Nick Offerman, they're like, oh, they've cast a comedian in a role, and then he absolutely nailed it. But yeah, Caitlin Dever is Abby. We've got Isabella Merced has been cast as Dina, so it's different from the person we maybe suspected it was. And then we've got the final one is Jesse is Young Mazzino, is his name.
He's very, very good in. If anybody hasn't seen Beef on Netflix, it's a really, really good show. So that's a strong casting choice as well, from my perspective.
So yeah, so shooting begins shortly, and then I guess we'll see it probably early 2025.
Yeah, I wish it was soon.
Also, go check out the Clicker Cast.
Yeah, which will probably be back in 2025
if we're still alive.
Well, that's it. If shooting hasn't started yet, it's not due for 2025. She's got plenty of time to get the gym.
What do you think is going to happen in 2024, Chris? Like that was a very distinct. If we're still here,
the fungus. Have you not seen that picture going around the internet of the fungus coming out of the ceiling in that random apartment?
No.
If you just go on the internet now and just search for ceiling fungus Last of Us, there's it's a growth that was going around. I think one of our friends put it in our chat group the other day, and it's literally like an apartment complex, and there's this crazy growth coming out the ceiling, and everyone's saying it started. The Last of Us is real.
Yeah. But this is why you shouldn't eat mushrooms. You encourage them.
I mean, eating them is surely reducing their population.
Yeah, but people have to cultivate them.
That's true. But yeah, other than that, anything else?
Rob,
time for one more story. What's your pick?
Sorry, I was getting absorbed by the... well, not absorbed, but I got sucked into the fungi thing. I've got some stats for Helldivers on PC, and I'm happy to say I can run it in the full experience because I'm very much very, very excited for... Are
you in on Helldivers, Rob?
Oh yeah, totally.
Because I need someone else to be in with me because I don't know how much anyone else is.
No, you sold it to me on the basis of
Starship Troopers.
Yeah, how sucked in I am to Starship Troopers. So yeah,
I'm not in on Helldivers.
It's probably going to be a day one purchase for me actually.
Sweet. February 8th, so not too long to go. And weirdly enough, it is a Thursday.
I think Helldivers looks cool, but it's just not high on my priority list of things that I want to play right now.
As an aside, it's a bit depressing how quickly your PC hardware stops being on the edge of the tech kind of edge. Because I'm looking at the specs now, and I'm I can still run it on Ultra and stuff, but it's I'm getting to that borderline where I'm going to drop into the lower tier, I guess. I
felt for a while actually, because when I was watching loads of tech channels and stuff, when I was looking at building my PC, trying to figure out what I needed, I felt for a while it's the tech industry needs to slow down a bit. It's going faster than it needs to.
Never.
They've got into the cycle where it seems like every year or two they bring out a new generation of GPUs, which is only just marginally better than the last one. It's why don't you just give it 5 years?
Especially when this
and they're struggling to get them off shelves. Yeah,
it's $1,500, $2,000 for the next iteration. PC games expensive, man.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a good point to highlight then that this is PlayStation's first game to come to day and date with PC. So I'm really interested to see how Helldivers performs, but just purely out of sales because it's on 2 platforms with crossplay, which is is a first on a lot of fronts. So could be interesting. And again, the fact that it's not top down, it's fully embracing that third person. So it is just the Division meets Starship Troopers / Helldivers, which looks epic.
Interestingly, you can get the original Helldivers and CD keys for £4. I was just looking for the price, and apparently on CD keys you can get Helldivers 2 PC version for $25.99. Seems fairly, yeah.
On PS5.
I don't know whether on Steam it's $34.99. I don't know whether I don't know how that would impact the sales, to be honest, because sometimes I think if a game's priced a bit too low, it does come across almost, it's that perception of it. Is it now just a AA, low budget kind of thing, where I don't think Helldivers is. So I don't know. Do you ever wonder that about with like the pricing of games sometimes? If they go too low, is like...
Yeah. But it could also benefit it massively because people go like, oh, I did want to pay 70, but I'll be in on this. And again, I think with a game that's multiplayer centric, it needs that groundswell of a user base. So I think shaving that 20 quid off, especially if there's cosmetics and stuff and microtransactions within it, you could kind of recoup that £20-25 difference very, very quickly if the game's good. So if they know what they've got here and they're happy with it, then I guess they can make that informed decision based on how it's going to perform. But
I think
that's
why we were once hoping that it might come to PlayStation Plus day and date. Then, because I think that would be a great. I still stand by that would be PlayStation Plus Premium. You get something like Helldivers because it's a £30 game day and date. Suddenly you're getting that influx of players in there, and then you're also rewarding your PlayStation Plus Premium, subscribers and stuff. So that is one of the things that it can do the Game Pass thing where it could actually entice people to on Essential like myself to maybe upgrade. Go, if I upgrade, I'll get access to that day and date. But anything else to say on Helldivers before we round out the show?
Less than 4 weeks. It's out.
4 weeks. Very, very soon.
So, as we always do, we'll round out the show with This Week in Video Game History. So, we're talking about January the 12th, because that is the day of recording. Is there any jump outs for any of you on this day?
SimCity 4 for me. I feel like this was like the time when that franchise started going in, I guess, the wrong direction. So
the one that stands out is one because the game went downhill from there.
Well, it was just like such a beloved like franchise for me. I'm not saying it was like SimCity 4 wasn't bad, but it's when like all like the Origin like launch started like seeping in and things like that. So that's significant for me.
Oh, I love when you get titles in this where it's just like completely ridiculous, like Ara Anti-Incest came out today on Linux and PC.
Cool. WCW NWO Thunder. I remember this game. Yeah. That was a class game.
Nothing stands out for me on that day. Skipping forward to the rest of the weekend though, January 14th, War of the Monsters on PlayStation 2. Phenomenal game, and it's available on PS5 via the PS4 Classics collection they did.
Well, I played it a few weeks ago.
If we're sticking with the 14th, Zelda 2 came out.
The Adventure of Link.
Kind of the dark sheep of the Zelda franchise because it was a 2D side scroller.
Was that one of those ones where it came out and it was kind of not a true Zelda game? I think there's a couple of Nintendo titles where they...
This is a true Nintendo-made Zelda game. This was the sequel to the original Zelda, but where the first one is kind of like traditional top-down open world exploration thing. This did have like an overworld, but when you went into areas, it went to 2D side scroll and you had like a magic meter and stuff.
Right.
So that's why it's kind of a bit of a black sheep. It's when Nintendo tried something completely different.
Yeah, I can't remember which one. It might be a Mario game, might be a Zelda, but there's like back at that time when the first one did so well, they tried to get it out really quick.
The Philips CDI games. They've come out with a few of them.
It's like they're trying to churn them out quicker, and back then they were just like, oh, because you can make it in like 5-6 months. It was like, oh, just make it, and that's how like some titles varied drastically from the main one to the sequel.
And Nintendo have been very protective of their IP ever since.
Yeah. E.T. Yeah, 37 years ago for Zelda, and 21 years ago. But everything else is just average.
Wreckfest is good.
Tennis came out on the NES 40 years ago. Just tennis.
Just tennis is sport.
The game of tennis, yeah.
The origins of the sport.
You don't need to give it a subtitle when you're the first tennis game.
You don't. Yeah, just imagine if they just annualise it. Tennis 99, tennis 2000. Slam and serve, fire a blazing backhand, smash a forehand volley, you call a shot in Nintendo Tennis. Just like that. Sold.
And with that, I think that's all we have time for you this week. Thank you very much for watching. If you haven't already, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel or your podcast feed of choice, hit the bell icon so you're kept in the loop with all the great content here at GamerGuild TV, where this Thursday we'll be reacting live to the Xbox Developer Direct. It goes live at 8 PM as our usual streaming slot on a Thursday night, so looking forward to see what Xbox have to offer and seeing how wrong we were about what we discussed about it today. And with that, I've been Richie.
I've been Chris.
And I've been Rob.
GG everyone, goodbye.